The destruction yesterday of two of Russia's oil tankers, the extraordinary destruction. I'll show you some film here. This is what went on. Two tankers, there's actually three vessels, I think, were destroyed in the Kerch Strait. It marks a significant environmental, logistical, and global event. The Volgonev 212 split in half, spilling 4,300 tons of fuel oil, while the Volgonev 239 was left drifting and damaged, with one crew member dead, 11 hospitalized. This is a tragedy that raises critical questions about maritime safety, environmental risks, poor ship standards, and the wider implications of an already volatile region. Two aging tankers, both built in the late 1960s and operating beyond their expected lifespans, were caught in a severe storm in this strategically significant waterway. And while initial efforts report that the disaster was a result of extreme weather, the vessel's advanced age and well-documented safety concerns cannot be overlooked. The Volgonev 212, like its ill-fated predecessor, Volgonev 139, fractured dramatically, sinking and releasing thousands of tons of fuel into the sea. And the ecological implications of the spill are catastrophic. Fuel oil, unlike lighter petroleum products, is notoriously difficult to clean up and highly toxic to marine ecosystems. And the Kerch Strait, this vital corridor between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, is home to sensitive marine life and critical fisheries. Svetlana Radionova, the head of Rospironadzor, has acknowledged the challenges of assessing and addressing the spill, though Russia's border environment response has been criticized for its delays. I don't understand how a Russian organization is going to come into that area and clean up the damage during an active war, in an active war zone. The disaster occurred in this waterway emblematic of tension. Since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, control of the Kerch Strait has been a point of contention with Ukraine. And while the strait is integral to global shipping and energy transport from Russia, Russia's dominant position has led to accusations of mismanagement, with critics citing reduced safety standards and increased risks, exemplified by this stupidity. This incident amplifies calls for international scrutiny of Russia's handling of the strait. The Volgonev-class tankers are a symbol of the broader issues within Russian maritime structure. They brought the broader problems of the Russian maritime industry. Both vessels were over 50 years old, well past the lifespan of most tankers in global fleets. And while the Russian government points to extreme weather, there's always an excuse. The outdated design, the outdated maintenance of these ships exacerbates that disaster. So last month there was the explosion of a plane where was that? I think it was in Turkey, wasn't it? The explosion of a plane, a Russian plane. Now there's the disintegration of two Russian tankers. The point is that the Russian ships, Russian vessels, are not being repaired properly, are not being looked after because of this obsession with attacking and acquiring Ukraine. What's the point of acquiring Ukraine if you can't actually manage it, if you can't manage yourself? There are pressing questions about the adequacy of Russia's equipment, Russia's regulations, and the risks posed by its reliance on aging infrastructure that is ill-prepared, ill-repaired. The spill not only threatens the maritime environment, but also Russia's global standing. It highlights vulnerabilities in Russia's energy and transport sectors, casting doubt on Russia's ability to manage strategic waterways under crisis conditions. The incident also strains relations with Ukraine further, given the shared ecological impact and the strait's contested status. The disaster coincides with escalating tensions in the Black Sea region. Reports of North Korean soldiers being deployed by Russia in the war against Ukraine underscore the Kremlin's desperation to maintain its military foothold. Reports of those same soldiers fleeing the battlefield or being engaged in fisticuffs with Chechen fighters. It's a mess, isn't it? Meanwhile, Ukraine has vowed to persevere against these provocations, framing these incidents as further evidence of Russia's recklessness. So there are three conclusions we could draw from the tanker disaster. The scale of the spill, firstly, calls for a robust international response, and Russia's delayed reaction and its prevarication and its reluctance to acknowledge its stupidity underscores the need for stronger global environmental safeguards. Secondly, the reliance on decrepit fleets is a warning to other countries operating similar vessels. Modernizing infrastructure must be a priority to prevent further disaster. And thirdly, the spill exemplifies how environmental and global crises intertwine, especially in contested regions. This event should galvanize calls for a multilateral management of waterways like this. The sinking of the Volga-Neft 212, the damage to the Volga-Neft 239 are a manifestation of broader issues: environmental neglect, aging infrastructure, global instability, and the disaster's impact will linger not only in the waters of the Black Sea, but also in the strategic calculations of nations navigating this fraught region. Whether this spurs meaningful reform or fades into the litany of overlooked crises is something that remains to be seen. But what cannot be ignored is Russia's blind stupidity.